Across Africa, the soil tells a story of hands that plant hope, of women and men who rise with the sun, shaping the future of our food, our land, and our economies. This is Agri Talk Africa, the podcast that puts farmers first. We go beyond the headlines to bring you authentic conversations with people driving change in African agribusiness. From financial literacy to climate-smart farming, from the challenges of rural financing to the triumphs of innovation. We educate, we inform, and we inspire. Welcome to Agri Talk Africa, where agriculture meets action. Hello and welcome back to Agri Talk Africa. This is the platform where we talk about everything that has to do with agriculture. It is brought to you by Lumbani Chilenga Investments, and these are the publishers of the AgriCop newspaper, and they are also the organizers of the AgriCop Awards and the Farmers' Choice Awards. I'm your host, Ruth Chileshe. On today's episode, we are going to talk about mechanization, and to help me elaborate further on this topic is Mr. Paul Richards, who is the CEO of AgLeaseCo. Mr. Richards, welcome to the interview.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Please call me Paul.
All right, so before we get into the nitty-gritties of the conversation, maybe can you just tell us a bit about AgLeaseCo, what you do, and the gap that you hope to fill in the Zambian agriculture sector?
Thank you, and good evening, good day to all your listeners. AgLeaseCo is set up to mechanize small-scale and emergent farmers and agro-processors across Zambia. We understand and we know that small-scale farmers account for 85-90% of Zambia's commercial maize crop. Mm-hmm. And so whatever we can do to mechanize this segment of the economy should in turn relate to increased yields on those lands, mm-hmm. and also improved livelihoods, okay. and contribute to improving Zambia's food security. And if we accomplish any of those things, it's a step in the right direction. All three, and it's a game changer.
Okay. All right. So mechanization, this is a topic that has been spoken about by the government, so many people that are in agriculture. But then obviously there are some people or some farmers that do not know what mechanization means. Can you give us a breakdown of what mechanization is and what it looks like when you look at the Zambian agriculture sector?
Sure. So mechanization comes in various stages along the agricultural value chain. It starts, of course, with land preparation. Okay. Traditionally, our farmers here in Zambia, our small-scale farmers, have been working with ox-drawn plows, or even the hoe on smaller pieces of land. And that's how they prepare their lands. And it's backbreaking, and it's restrictive in the amount of land that one can prepare in a given season, particularly around when the soils are still very, very hard before the first rains.
Yeah.
So mechanization for land preparation would talk to tractors, whether they're four-wheel tractors for the bigger pieces of land, but also two-wheel tractors, walking tractors, for the smaller pieces, 1, 2, 3 hectares. We can use the small walking tractors. And then, of course, the plows, the rippers, the discs that those tractors pull. So there's mechanization around land preparation that I've just spoken to. Then there's further downstream around planting. There's mechanization and automation of planting. You can purchase planters, mm-hmm. and spreaders, and boom sprayers, and water bowsers. So anything along the planting and husbandry part of that process can also be mechanized to assist the farmers in keeping their lands in good condition, but also planting a crop that is in the right spaces at the right depth, which are also very important points to increasing yield. And then, of course, at the end of the day, there's harvesting that crop. So we have rice harvesters that we finance for some of our rice farmers down in Mfui in that area. We have groundnut lifters that would assist in mechanizing that process. So it all adds to, I guess, improving, as I said, the yields, but also productivity improves by mechanizing. And then finally, along the value chain, there's also storage. And storage is a vitally important part of small-scale farming because it allows a farmer to not be forced to sell their crop on day one when they harvest. They can keep the crop for a short period of time, 1 month, 2 months, until most of the crop has been bought by the commodity brokers, and the price goes up because when demand increases and supply is reduced, price goes up. It's economics 101. So AgLeaseCo plays an important role across that whole spectrum.
Okay, so AgLeaseCo, when people hear about mechanization, obviously some would think, okay, commercial farmers and all that, but AgLeaseCo deals with smallholder farmers, yes? So how do you tailor your services to ensure that they meet the needs of smallholder farmers? Because, of course, they have restricted budgets and they have a traditional way of farming. So how does your company tailor your services to meet their needs?
That's a good question, Ruth, and I'm going to talk to the farmers now because these are the questions that we would ask the farmers. Number one, we were set up to talk to and provide finance only for the small scale and emergent farming and agro-processor in Zambia. So if you cultivate between 1 hectare and 100 hectares, that is where we play. That is our sweet spot. Anything above 100 hectares is considered too big for our business model. So you can see that we are small scale and emergent farmers, okay, and agro-processors. Second question is we understand that most of the land that you cultivate is not title deeds. It's traditional land. It's been given to the farmers. So we don't ask for collateral around title deeds, and we don't ask for business plans and 3 years of production planning and forecasts. We don't ask for balance sheets. We don't, because we understand the market that we are talking to. Okay. What we would do is we would sit with a farmer. Our people would visit the farm. They need to see the land. They need to see what's happening on that land. And they would then ask questions around how much land are you cultivating here? How much seed did you plant on this piece of land? Did you fertilize? Yes or no? And then if it's FISIP, the old FISIP program that people would put the fertilizer, did you then put pesticides and herbicides? Most farmers would say, no, I didn't have money for that. And then at the end of the day, the question would be, how much maize did you pull off this field, or soya, or any crop? Okay. And based on the answers to those questions, we would build up a database over, this is our 7th season now. So we understand the basic production levels in a good year, a medium year, and a bad year. Last year's drought was a terrible impact on the small scale farming across the country, but we were prepared for that. So our differentiator is the fact that we talk to and cater for small scale and emergent farmers. Number one. Number two, the collateral that we take is the machine that we finance. We don't do anything else. We look for no other collateral outside the security other than the asset that we finance. And we rely on the cash flow of that crop that's going to come in, but also if there's any other diversification initiatives that are quite important too.
Okay, so do you just focus on, or what do you prefer? Do you prefer farmers that monocropping or those that crop diverse crops? Like, how does it work? Which one is better? For a maize farmer that's out there, they're thinking, okay, I only concentrate on maize. Maybe if I go to AgLeaseCo, I would not meet the requirements. So do you focus on farmers that just into monocropping, or it's a diverse range? Okay,
so another very good question, Ruth, and I think the silver bullet with small scale and emergent farming is water, is manzi. Okay. If the farmer has got access to water, whether it's streams, perennial streams, boreholes, wells, dams, it reduces the risk so significantly that allows the farmer to diversify into other areas. Number one. So, in your example, you asked me the question, is monocropping, it's the most risky way of farming because you're exposed to one crop, one price, one rainfall, and one harvesting season, and that's it. So clearly, if we come across a farmer who has water security and is diversified because of the water security into horticulture and even livestock, and then also does some soya and some maize, clearly the chances of success and cash flow from that diversified farmer are far higher than if we have somebody who's doing 4 hectares of dryland maize without any water security. That is a very risky problem and a risky challenge. So to answer your question, diversification is something that we see as a risk mitigant. It reduces the risk, but water is the silver bullet. Water is the one thing that allows for us to mechanize faster and to introduce different varieties of crops, diversification, and even livestock, because you can feed and water your livestock as well. And that improves the availability of it reduces the seasonal cash flow. Mm-hmm. It allows a farmer to do maybe monthly or every 6 weeks, and if there's a crop failure because of drought, they've got animals that they can sell. Okay.
Okay, you've mentioned, of course, that access to water, if a farmer does not have access to water, and when we look at the drought that Zambia has had, does AgLeaseCo have any initiatives that you do that help with climate resilient farming for farmers that do not have access to water?
Sure. So number one, we try to introduce conservation agriculture practices into the farmers that we help. So, for example, using rippers rather than plows allows farmers to maintain that mulch on the top of their soil. So evaporation is slower, moisture is maintained in the ground for longer. So that's sort of one area. Number two is solar powered irrigation. For those people who have water, we don't do diesel dirty powered irrigation. Okay. We don't have that in our mandate, but certainly solar powered irrigation is something that we finance. Yeah. So in addition to financing conservation agriculture equipment like rippers and solar powered irrigation equipment, we are also in discussions with the Ministry of Finance through the PS in his office. We're also in discussions with the Zambia Credit Guarantee Scheme around the possibility of finding areas where the likelihood of drilling boreholes would find success. Mm-hmm. And if we found an area and we could work with drilling companies who would be prepared to take the risk on drilling boreholes and drilling dry boreholes, the odd one, then certainly we could diversify, we could move upstream in terms of our product. Mm-hmm. And we could look at boreholes and financing, not the drilling of the borehole. That's too risky, because if there's a dry borehole, who pays for that? But certainly the sleeving, the pumps, the solar irrigation and things like that. You're quite right in the sense that what we are seeing more and more, and this is the third season that I've seen it, is that our traditional farming DNA, the Tongas from Southern Province, many farmers from Eastern Province, they are moving. They are moving north. They are moving to Serenge. They are moving to Lufanyama in northwestern. They are moving up into Muchinga Province and up into northern and Luapula, because the rains have become so unreliable in southern and in some instances in some places of Eastern Province. Last year we had one of our farmers was completely wiped out by drought in Chama. Mm-hmm. And 42 kilometers away, another farmer was flooded. So climate change is a reality. It is with us and is not going to go away anytime soon. So what we are seeing and is the agility of the farmers to realize that there's a problem, that there's a shift in rainfall patterns, and that they are taking that agricultural DNA up to stay with the fisher people. Up in the north and the northwestern provinces, and introduce them to agricultural practices, and start farming practices up there, which, because of the more reliable rain, and in fact in some instances the water access, they should over time build very solid foundations for for good agriculture.
Okay, Paul, you mentioned that one of your farmers in Choma had, of course, because of climate change, the entire produce was wiped out. In such a case, how do you handle such situations? Because, of course, they have to pay back what they got from you. So how do you handle such situations if that happens?
So, we are a licensed financial institution and we have to make money. If we don't make money, we close our doors. We can't be sustainable. So, but having said that, we also have an impact stroke developmental side to our business. We're not here just to repossess assets there and there. We must understand the seasonality of farming. And if we lend money to a farmer who's doing 4 hectares of dry land maize, we must understand the risks and be prepared to assist that farmer if they demonstrate transparency, commitment to AgLeaseCo, and a willingness to work with us. So, for example, last year with the drought, we rescheduled 256 leases. We went to see these people who were all in the worst hit districts in the country. We visited them. If they had crops in the ground that were destroyed because of the drought, we recognized the work that they'd put in. We'd recognized the cost that they had sunk into the business. And we said, look, if the rains come, and last year in October, November, December, and you continue to plant, we will carry you until you harvest this year's crop. So in those cases, we try to make a plan for the farmer by carrying them, rescheduling the leases, adding more months at the end, and allowing them the beauty of keeping their machines to do land preparation in the following year. Not in every instance, because the farmer needs to be transparent with us, committed to AgLeaseCo. This is not a grant. This is Congole. This is debt.
Yeah.
Okay, and we have to collect it. Otherwise, our shareholders suffer. Bank of Zambia looks at how we're managing these things, our non-performing loans, and they can even withdraw our license if we are not managing this properly. But where possible, we help the farmers by carrying them and rescheduling.
Okay, that's interesting. I think that gives some farmers, of course, that have had bad experiences with banks where they get a loan and then things don't go according to plan and they have their assets grabbed. I think it's a bit.
No, it is. It's an important. No, it is an important part of our business model. Is that we're not here to take a down payment from the farmer and then put them back to the oxen. We're here to empower them and then to work with them to make sure that at the end of the day they sit with a tractor that is now theirs and they have no debt.
Okay, now we are going to go back to the aspect of mechanization. Apart from access to finance, of course, and having budgets that are a bit constricted, what do you think is the major challenge that farmers have in Zambia in terms of mechanization or adopting mechanization practices?
So the first one is access to water, and that will remain a challenge for all farmers. Commercial farmers generally have the capital to be able to drill boreholes or to channel and access water rights from rivers. Small scale farmers don't necessarily have that. So access to water would fix a lot of the problems and the challenges that small scale farmers have. The other one, of course, is access to capital. And you mentioned some of the challenges that farmers face, and that's why AgLeaseCo was set up in 2017. We wrote our first lease in 2018, and I can tell you that we are the cheapest money that small-scale farmers can access. Okay, we charge 30% per annum in kwacha. Now, the commercial banks are charging for retail 35, 36, 37%. And the microfinance institutions, some of them are charging even north of 40, 48%. So AgLeaseCo is offering fair capital at a fair price to a market that is underbanked. And we give them access to capital to be able to address the challenge of mechanization. Obviously, the farmers need to come up with a down payment. And this is, apart from the water challenge, spare cash flow is also a bit of a challenge for farmers. So if we're finding that many farmers of our customers or potential customers are looking for funding now for tractors, but they're saying, look, let me first get my soya off the field. That's now, or last month, May. And in August, September, we take maize off and we sell that. We will then have the money to put the down payment. So the down payment is also a bit of a challenge for some of the farmers. And as the price of this equipment increases, the down payment increases. And that creates a bit of a challenge for farmers as well. We do have to have their commitment by putting some of their own money into the equipment, because it gives us what we call equity in the asset, for us to at least have some security in the assets that we are financing. So access to water and access to spare cash to put a down payment for us are seen as some of the biggest challenges.
Okay. In Zambia, the Ministry of Agriculture, they've been singing the aspect of mechanization. Farmers must mechanize in terms of how they're farming. But of course, when you look at people that smallholder farmers, and then you look at commercial farmers, of course, for commercial farmers, it's easy for them because that deals with productivity. What if a farmer who practices traditional farming, if you were to tell them to change into mechanized farming, what would you tell them is something that makes mechanized farming better compared to traditional farming?
And it's difficult because, some of our farmers are third, fourth, fifth generation farmers. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they've been handed down this way of farming for generations. Mm-hmm. But as climate change takes hold, to the credit of the small-scale farmers, we are seeing that the farmers are also by themselves identifying. These people are clever. They are farmers. And they understand the seasons. They understand the soils. They understand, the weather and the winds and everything. So I'm not going to teach a small-scale farmer how to farm. That's not my job. My job is to introduce them to the ways in which they can access capital that, like I said, can assist in improving their yields. Mm-hmm. If we mechanize a farmer, maybe they can even go from 2 hectares to 4 hectares, or from 6 to 12, because of the mechanization and the equipment that they've now been given can do a quicker job than can a human being and some oxen. So it's about showing what if you mechanized, what would change in my life? And I think the seed companies have got these lots that they put together, and they show the farmers in the various districts what happens if they plant this seed and if they use conservation agriculture techniques, the yield compared to this land just next door that is not conservation agriculture. So I think all of the players in the value chain, from input suppliers, from fertilizer companies, seed companies, chemical and pesticide companies, even banks and finance institutions like AgLeaseCo, they are all trying to build this economy, because we do know that it creates, unquestionably employs, even if it's unofficial, the largest percentage of Zambia's population. And every Zambian you speak to has farming in their blood one way or the other. Whether they have something outside of the town where they work and the family's looking after that, but farming is an important part. So we don't try to teach people farming. We're not farming teachers, but what we try to do is introduce them to ways that supplement the history that they have in their DNA and increasing their yields and their production and improving their livelihoods at the end of the day.
Okay, so the aspect of mechanization is very wide. There's land preparation, like you talked about. There's also agro-processing. From the services that you offer, which one, the farmers that you have, which one has more demand?
So, look, every farmer wants a tractor. And in fact, anything around land prep, if you haven't got a tractor, you can't take a plow, you can't take a planter, you can't take a boom sprayer, you can't take a spreader or a thresher, So clearly the tractor comes first. Okay. Whether it's a 2-wheel tractor or a 35, 60, 90 horsepower 4-wheel tractor. The tractor basically is the foundation for primary agriculture. But then, of course, there's the agro-processors. There's your dehullers, there's your hammer mills, there's your oil expellers, and that is very big. Perhaps not in terms of value, because a tractor is, 600,000-700,000 kwacha, whereas a hammer mill is, 24,000-25,000 kwacha.
Okay.
But the demand for tractors, and then anything the tractor can pull, is important.
Okay.
And it's a key driver of primary agriculture. Agro-processing, downstream after the harvest, we're seeing a lot of our repeat customers now, those farmers who 5-6 years ago took a tractor and plows and planters. They've repaid those. Now they're saying, right, now I want to diversify downstream. I want to, instead of selling my maize to market, I want to keep that maize and mill it here at home. And even I can look after my neighbors as well and hammer mill and mill their crop as well. So it's a combination, but if you have to ask me, I would say that we've got more agro-processors on our books than we have primary farmers, but very close. But clearly the most value of our business is the tractors and the implements that they pull.
What about irrigation? How is the response to irrigation?
Do you know, it's only about 8 to 10% of our portfolio, which is not a lot. But why is that? It's because you have to have manzi, water there to have the irrigation equipment. You can't buy and lease irrigation equipment unless you've got water there to harvest. So that's why I think more people want to have irrigation, because it takes the water to the crop and it ensures a better yield. There's no question. But you've got to have the foundational water on site or very near site within half a kilometer before irrigation becomes an opportunity.
Okay, we are going to move a bit because almost in every conversation there's an aspect of gender equality, no youth. How is the response in terms of the farmers that you have? How is the interest from women and youths? Is it compared to men? And if not, how do you think you can work around that to ensure that they also have interest in those areas?
I mean, clearly, empowerment of women and youth, it is one of the Millennium Development Goals. It's one of government's stated aims, and it's one of our aims too. We find that more women farmers tend to get together in a cooperative, whereas men farmers are individual farmers. But women farmers are not afraid to come together as a group and form a cooperative. Youth is another very important focus area for AgLeaseCo. So at the moment, only 32% of our customers are women. Okay. So there's scope to improve that. But because we are now able to finance cooperatives, we are now reaching 100, 200 women at the same time through the cooperative. So whilst it's not ideal, we would like to have a 50-50 split. I think the reality of it also is that, are most small-scale and emergent farmers in Zambia, are they males? Or are they females? But rest assured that we are keenly focused on women farmers. And the incentives that we have, the people that we work with from our funding perspectives, they incentivize us to prioritize women and women farmers. Just 2 years ago, we had a special launch on two-wheel tractors, where Musika picked up the interest charges of those two-wheel tractors for women. So that gives you, and we did 102 two-wheel tractors for women farmers in about 3 months. So it was a good success. And we should probably be thinking about somebody else to partner with to do something similar going forward.
Okay. You mentioned the aspect of cooperatives. How is it different compared to how you finance individuals? Like, how does working with a cooperative, if they come to you as AgLeaseCo and they want to access financing or leasing, how is it different in terms of structure and how it works?
compared to an individual and a cooperative?
Okay. Well, individual is one person, and I sit and I talk to that person, and I know who I'm dealing with. Cooperative is a group of people who put their resources together. They consist of 50 members up to, there's Mpongwe East cooperative where there's 3,000 members, and even you can have even more, as you know. So you're dealing with a different legal entity, for one. Cooperatives need to get registered with the Cooperative and Societies Commission.
Okay.
They have to. There is a Cooperative and Societies Act in the laws of the Republic of Zambia, so they have to be put together and be directed by that act and by the laws around that Societies and Cooperative Act. Number two, they have to elect a committee that's going to be the interface with people like AgLeaseCo. So the members would then vote in a board of directors. Who is the chairperson? Who is the treasurer? Who is the person that's going to sign for the lease? Who is the person who's going to open the bank account and be the person responsible for that bank account? Who's the person that's going to pay AgLeaseCo on a monthly basis or every 2-3 months? So it comes with additional complexity because you're not dealing with one individual. We're dealing with a number of individuals, all of whom have their own idea how things should be done. And that's why the election of this committee, this board of directors, is an important part of the democratic process. Once we have all of those set up, we can then deal with a cooperative. We don't insist on bank accounts. I think that's another very important point that AgLeaseCo has, is we deal in mobile money. Most of our money that we receive from our farmers comes from mobile money and not from bank accounts. And in the instance of a cooperative, we prefer to see a bank account because you can see bank statements. But even on the mobile money, there is a transaction history that you can have a look at when you're opening the account and having a look at the credit assessment.
Okay. We've talked about mechanization. We've talked about climate change. We've talked about everything. Just to put a face to the story, because if you are telling stories and then an individual cannot feel the impact, or they don't see a human face, they think, maybe they're just saying something. Could you maybe share a success story of a farmer that you've dealt with, just for us to put a face to the story?
Sure, I can, but I can't, unfortunately, because of the Data Protection Act. I can't give you names. But I can give you many examples of successful farmers who are now back for their second, their third, their fourth lease. There's a farmer in Mpongwe, rural, who started with us right back in 2019, and we did a tractor, and he was doing maize, he was doing soya crop, and he was doing 2 hectares of tobacco. Today, he has reached the point where he's now too big for AgLeaseCo. So he's doing over 100 hectares now of crop. And he's planted avocado trees. He's planted macadamia nuts. He's still doing his traditional, he's doing sunflower. He's got a general store now on his land, which he's been given more land by the chieftainess. And on that land, he's built a wholesale store where he's got now a hammer mill, an oil expeller, and he's helping himself with his sunflower crop. He's making vegetable oil. He's making these machines available to his neighbors who otherwise have to travel all the way into Mpongwe to go and take their crop. Now he processes their crop at a cost. So you're seeing that diversification along the value chain happens. When there's successful mechanization, the next step clearly is to increase the size of the land that is cultivated, and then thirdly, you diversify downstream into agro-processing. And we've got, I can count 8 or 9 of those off the top of my head across the country. There's another lady in Nyimba with a similar story. There's another lady in Petauke with a similar story. So if you're able to repay your machine loans, You then get the agro-processing equipment, and you become more powerful because you're able to hold on and process your own crop.
I think that at least it puts a face to the story, and when people hear that story, they'll be like, okay, I also want to be like that. Now, let's look at it from a policy point of view. Do you think the policies that we have in Zambia in agriculture, do you think they are enough to foster mechanization, or if not, what do you think can be done to improve the situation?
Look, government are doing a lot in this process, and they have, it's their stated aim that they see also mechanization as such an important tool. One of the areas I know that there are discussions taking place, and I submitted a paper to the Ministry of Agriculture through the PS's office just last week, where I made a proposal that there should be some businesses like AgLeaseCo, for example, who 100% are in agriculture.
Okay.
Whereas commercial banks, microfinance institutions, they cover all the sectors. They cover mining, they cover tourism, they cover construction, they cover transport, they cover retail, they cover IT. AgLeaseCo is agriculture. Chapwa. Finished. So why should I not be called an agricultural bank? Mm-hmm. And with that, you are able then to put in place some rules, regulations that talk about an agricultural bank rather than a general agnostic bank that covers all sectors. And why would we consider treating an agricultural bank different? And it's because of the seasonality of the business, the crop. The cash flows of most of our farmers, particularly if they do one row crop, is very lumpy. They have one income once a year when their crop is harvested. If they diversify, they're blessed, and they can have some cash crops, tomatoes and beans and cabbages and whatever else they're able to grow on a horticultural basis. If they've got livestock, they're blessed again because they're able to then sell livestock if the crop doesn't deliver what's supposed to. But in the meantime, AgLeaseCo, being 100% agriculture, is in line with the Banking and Financial Services Act, having to carry that seasonality for a whole year sometimes until the crop arrives. So there can be some policy changes. There can be a way that potentially businesses like AgLeaseCo, who are 100% dedicated to agriculture, could possibly be viewed in a slightly different light under the same license from Bank of Zambia, but possibly a set of rules that take into account the seasonality of cash flows. It would allow us to you see, when you're waiting 1 year for a crop to come in and for money to flow in from the farmer, the business has to raise impairment for a loss after 90 days. So after 3 months, the business has to begin to put money a little bit aside in case this farmer doesn't pay. But we know that it's going to be a long wait because you've got 7 months left. Even now, we've got August, September is 2, 3, 4 months away before the maize income starts flowing in. So in the meantime, we are impacting our profitability by raising impairment. It's called impairment or loss loan provision. If we were able to treat our business as an agricultural business along the lines of the seasonality of our customers' cash flow, we wouldn't be forced by the regulations to raise this provision. And we could then show profits for every month instead of making monthly losses because of impairments, and then we write it all back in September when we get paid by the farmers. So it would just even out the cash flow for the farmer, even out the cash flow for AgLeaseCo, and it would assist the shareholders by making sure that they are making profits each month.
Okay. Now, as we conclude, because obviously we've talked about so many things, just as a conclusion, what message would you give to a farmer in terms of them embracing mechanization, just a word of encouragement or message that you'd like to give to farmers out there?
Thank you. Mechanization it works. We've now been 7 years and we've seen the benefits of mechanization. The problem and the challenge for the farmers is initially getting hold of that initial capital, the down payment, and it's between 25 and 30%. So it's quite a lot of money for some of our small scale farmers. I would urge farmers to not take out the loan if they feel that it's taking too much of a chance with their family money, because if you lose that money, you're back to square one.
Okay.
So make sure in your heart that the yields that you are telling AgLeaseCo that you are achieving are realistic. We have ways of checking, but we don't want people to get into debt when in 1 year or 2 years we have to take the tractor back, because the farmer's been, first of all, put down some of their hard-earned money, which they could otherwise have sent children to school. They could have maybe built a small room somewhere. Instead, they give it to AgLeaseCo. So be sure of your own capabilities as a farmer to be able to step up to mechanize. If you can have access to water, please do so. It's a silver bullet. It's something that empowers your business and your family like nothing else on earth, even more than mechanization. Manzi is the richest blessing of all for farmers. I think we know that. Mechanization on irrigated land, you now are 5 times more efficient than you were before. So talk to our people, they're in the field. Talk to the suppliers who we have arrangements and cooperation arrangements with, because if you do mechanize and you make it a success, it will change your lives.
Okay. So, Paul, there's a trophy there. Maybe you can give us an overview of what it's about. I mean, it's in the frame, so people might be wondering, what is it? So just,
Thank you.
What is it?
Yes, Ruth, we're very proud. Our people up in the northern region of our business, they attended the Mukushi District Agricultural and Commercial Show from the 6th and 7th of June last week. And we put up a stand, an AgLeaseCo stand, and I'm very proud to say that we were placed first in the commercial sector and we won this floating trophy. So it's something that we can be very proud of. I've congratulated the team up in the northern region, and this will be in the boardroom now for the rest of the year, and then it'll go into the cabinet with the other of our awards over the years. But it's a very important recognition from the show committee of AgLeaseCo and the work that we do. So thank you.
Okay, congratulations. And I'm pretty sure this won't be the last. It will be one of many additions. Thank you so much, Paul. Well, viewers, this has been Agri Talk Africa, and you've heard it for yourself. On this week's episode, we were talking about mechanization and how smallholder farmers can use mechanization to increase the productivity of the crops that they grow. I have been your host, Ruth Chileshe, and if you like the podcast and you like what you're hearing, please don't forget to subscribe. You can just go to our YouTube channel, you search for AgriCorp News Africa, and you will find us there, and you can see all the podcasts that we have. Until next time, see you next week.
Across Africa, the soil tells a story of hands that plant hope, of women and men who rise with the sun, shaping the future of our food, our land, and our economies. This is Agri Talk Africa, the podcast that puts farmers first. We go beyond the headlines to bring you authentic conversations with people driving change in African agribusiness. From financial literacy to climate-smart farming, from the challenges of rural financing to the triumphs of innovation. We educate, we inform, and we inspire. Welcome to Agri Talk Africa, where agriculture